Okay, so composite functions are functions where you input into the other function. That's what's happening. So here's two functions. You can see I've named them f of x, g of x. So find and graph g of f of x. So what does this mean? This is the input. And what are you going to do with that input? You're going to put it into that. You're going to put that into that. Okay, so what does that look like? You're going to put this into this position. So I put that into the place of the x, because that is our input, so I'm replacing the input with something else. Okay, I can simplify this. What would the equation look like if it was simplified? Right, the square and the square root would cancel. Okay, but there's a restriction on my domain. What is the thing about my domain that I don't like? So first of all, can we square anything? Yeah, you can square anything that you want. So there's nothing with that. Can you root anything in math? No. So there's a restriction about the x values I can use. What do you think? Bless you, bless you. I can square root positives. I can square root zeros. I cannot square root negatives. So what do I have to stay at or above? 1. Yeah. Right? Do you get that? Because I cannot square root a negative. So I have to stay at 1 to stay at 0 or above 1 to stay positive. Okay, so now it also says the graph. So how do you graph this function? A straight line. Okay, you got to recognize, at this point, you got to recognize everything from your past. X, oh, that was grade 10, line. X squared, that was grade 11, parabolas. We got to recognize radicals, rationals. Okay, so this is a straight line. So what do I do? The intercept is -1. And we go up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. And this is the line. But this would be wrong. It's great, it is this, but what did you just tell me about this domain?
It's gotta be
You can't do the whole line, you have to stop. So, therefore, I can only do that part of the line from 1 and beyond. Does that make sense? I'm connecting a bunch of stuff together here. Okay, next we're going to input f of g of x. So this time I'm going to put the g function into the f function. That's what it means. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put this into the f function's input place. Is that okay if I say it like that? The input spot. Okay, so can you put this into that? Does that make sense? Do you see my input? I replaced that with that. Okay, I'm going to simplify this. So there's my equation. So I found the equation, but now it says state the domain and range. So now I go to what do I know about radicals? Okay, so over here with my scrap work, I'm going to go let y equals this. So if I'm graphing this new function, if I want to graph this new function and I've labeled it let y equals, I can do that if I define that. I can do that. How do you graph a radical? I need to know transformations. You got to go back to transformations. Transformations of my radical are important because then I know where to start it and how to maneuver it, right? Okay, how do you start this out if I want to do transformations? What do you need to do? Candy. Ooh. Candy to think about it. There it is. I need to factor that out. I need to change the format. Now, what do I know? What is this about? Which transformation am I going to do? Which movement? I'm going to move it right to, and you know what? It doesn't move up or down, so it's just moving right to. Which direction does this radical go? Was there any reflections, negatives? No, so it would go that way. This would be a horizontal compression, but I actually don't really care. It doesn't change direction, so that doesn't matter. I just need to know that. So what is the domain? 2 to infinity. And what is the range? 0 to infinity. How's that stuff coming back? So like I said, this unit, the new understanding is simple, but then it ties into everything, which makes it complicated. Okay, find f of g of 5. So you need to work this first. Can you get me what is the g of 5? So what are you doing? You're inputting a 5 into the g. Put a 5 into the g. So that would go 5 squared plus 2, which is 27. Now, if that is 27, my question will read, find the f of 27. So put the 27 into the f. Okay, the last one here for that style. Find the f of 5. You got to do that first. So plug the 5 into the f. So I got a 16 out, input, output. Now, input a 16 into the G function. So here's the moral of the story. Order is important. You can see how I used the F and the G. I used the same functions. I used the same number. But because I did them in different order, that's a different question completely. Okay, I don't know why I have number 4. This looks the exact same. Are you okay if I skip it? I don't know. I think it's the exact same.
Is it the exact same?
Or not, like the same idea though. Oh, is it? Oh no, it's not the exact same, but almost. Skip it. Okay, number 5. Find the f of g of x. So I'm just going to write these out here. You don't have to do this, by the way. Okay, so here's the deal. What is the input and what are you putting it into? That's what you're thinking. G of x is the input and you are putting it into the f function. Does that make sense? I put this into that position. Oh, and it says to graph. What do you do? So what do you know about it? X squared. What do you know about x squared? Parabola. What do you know if there's a +1 at the end? Up 1. And what kind of moves would you do on this parabola on x, y, up, over, up stuff? 1, 1, 2, 4. Okay, so again, tie everything that you've ever learned. All the functions you've ever learned could come back and play. Okay, so this one, what's the input and what are you putting it into? The input and you're putting it into that. So what is the input? What are you putting it in to? Okay, if I haven't said anything, I guess you can just leave that. If I said simplified, what would you do? How would you simplify it? Multiply this out. How do you multiply this? You would complete FOIL. And graph. So it's a parabola. So let's talk about things we know about this parabola. Super quick, this form, what's that all about? Y-intercept. If I go back to this setup, what does this tell me about the parabola? 1 to the right 1, up 2, right 1 up 2 is the start of the parabola. Right 1 up 2 is the start. The y-intercept is 3. The pattern is 1, 1, 2, 4. All those things connect to what I know. Okay, so don't forget your functions. Don't forget your transformations. Okay, last question. Okay, so this one, what is the f of negative 2? So you're going to go to the x value of negative 2, right here. And what is the height of the f function? The height of the f is 2. Now the new question will be, what is the g of 2? So go to an x value of 2. What is the height of the g line? 1. Okay. F of negative 3, so go to a negative 3. What's the height of the f line? 1. So now I'm doing another f. So go to an x value of 1. What's the height of the f line? 5. This was like a double f one, right? You plugged in an f, you plugged in an f. So I'm not even looking at the g line once. Okay, last question. And what in the world does this little symbol mean? Inverse. So what does this inverse function even do in math? They switch places. So what do you think this 1 is representing then? It's the y, and I'm trying to figure out the x value that gets me to a height of 1. This is just backwards now, right? Because before we were like going to the x, figuring out the y, but now we have the height. So where is the f line a height of 1?
2. Oh,
No, that's the g line. Negative 3. Right? I'm right here. Right there is when I'm at a height of 1. Inversing. How does that sound? I feel like I put a super fun bonus question on this test. Maybe. Something crazy like, what is the f of g of g of f of g of f of g of f of 2 or something like that? Won't that be fun? Sure. That's like a puzzle.